Welcome back again. Goal of this video is to put up siding. First off, it's our Tyvek. I am planning on insulating. So this will keep some sort of moisture barrier that's a little bit breathable. This isn't going to be doing all the work though, because I'm going to be having a 1/2-inch air gap around the entire shed. And that'll be my drainage plane, essentially. Wind is actually blowing against the shed. It's making it a little bit more easy to put up with just me. As usual, you can see the other side is already done. That's because there's only 30 inches of room there. It's a little bit harder to film and have activities. Just using a tack hammer for the stapler. You don't want too many holes, but you want enough. I want enough that the Tyvek isn't going to be like sagging, because I don't want it by like going past that air gap. I want it to kind of keep the same way. They say it disintegrates over 10, 15, 20 years, and I don't know if that's true, but this is what people use, so this is what I'm going to use. I'll show you should be a little snippet later on in the video showing that air gap. Basically, you can see clear through all the way to the other side, in between the siding and the Tyvek. You can see clear daylight through the other side, which is kind of nice to see. Cutting the opening for the window. Got a pretty decent sized window. It's 2 to 3 feet wide by 5 and 5 something wide. I'm going to be trimming this out with that, I made not quite a drip edge, but some trim. I don't know if you can see it in earlier videos. You can see me making other parts of the trim, but maybe not specifically around the window and for the door and the garage and that sort of thing. I still have to put the door around. A lot of small little things that need to happen eventually, but the big stuff has to happen first. Snow is coming, and you gotta get yourself weatherproof before you worry about the fine details. Flipping a door around is something you can easily do in an afternoon. I don't have it on camera, but after I trim this last strip, I tar along the entire edge, so the Tyvek is sealed to the concrete. Might not be the greatest idea, because if there's water on the inside that's sitting there, there's nowhere to go. But I figure most of my water is going to be coming from outside going in. Just having a little bit of tar there just is that last barrier. More ideal solution would have been to have like a short, like 6-inch concrete wall all the way around, but you can only do so much, and this, after all, this is just a shed. This is my Makita, I think, what is it, 1030? Something like that. 4030? "12-inch planer, 6-inch jointer." Very handy. Takes a beating too, though. So this is just a few days before putting up the tile deck. This is preparing all the boards. So this is all ash, like usual, and it's 3/4 inch thick. So my boards are going to be 3/4 inch, and then my battens are going to be 1/2 inch. I felt I could get away with going thinner than most people do. That is because it's hardwood and it's already dry. I'm not too worried about it cupping or splitting or anything like that. It might happen just because it gets water and rain and sun on it. But I'm not too worried about it. It's not like 30% moisture pine or something. So this is already like 12-14% maximum ash. It's been sitting outside drying for a long time as well. But making a lot of sawdust. I think after like the total sawdust production was around like 52 full garbage bags, like each one you sit on, and someone ended up buying it for their chickens, and that's my justification to sharpen my blades. I don't have a system to sharpen them myself very easily. I might try that next, but I was doing some fine carpentry earlier and I didn't want to mess around with sharpening them myself. It was a lot better than your lunchbox Mastercraft or whatever ones that they have. I think Nikita has one. They probably all have one, but I did do both sides just because I think it will help if it does get water back there. I'm talking like it's going to be raining back there, but it's not really going to be. It's just going to be moisture. A rough surface is going to be able to hold moisture better than a plain surface. So I did attempt to have most boards have good both sides. You also got to worry about the way the tree is grown, the growth rings. So you just want to think about which way they'll curl if they do curl, and then just use that to have your battens hold down the curl if that was to happen. I went my boards are anywhere from 4.5 to 7.5 inches. And I use 2.5 inch battens. Probably could have gone with 2-inch battens and it might have looked a little better, but I think it looks great the way it is. Each of these boards is roughly 8 feet. I did end up having to do a bunch of I think they're 10 feet. I did a bunch of 10-foot ones for the ends. That way I can have the longest length with no seams and keep my seams underneath the eave of the roof more. I don't really show it here, but most of the, like 60 to 75% of the holes I'm pre-drilling because it's ash and I don't want to snap my screw head off or split my board. Close enough. So I'm using a piece of 1/2 inch blocking. So each board has a 1/2 inch gap between it. I probably could go a little bit tighter because I'm not anticipating there to be any swelling or shrinking, but you don't want to go like right tight, because then you'll get into for some bucking or bowing if things swell up. All my horizontal boards also, I've cut them on a 35-degree angle. So if they do get water, it'll run towards the front, where hopefully it'll find those gaps and roll away down and drip to the bottom. I was thinking about putting them on an angle, and maybe I should have, but there's a lot of things to think about, and this is the first time I'm doing it. As well, my bottom edge has a 35 bevel on it as well. That way there's not a whole lot of surface area for water to wick in, and it also has a direction, a slope to follow and drip off of. Here's that trim I was talking about. It's just a fairly standard, you can see there, it's just T. Some T trim. Kind of like drip edge, but I didn't put the actual bend in the middle. This here just butts right up against my boards. Nothing fancy, I'm not doing any like wraparound boards. Everything I read seems to suggest that they catch a lot of water and rot away sooner than later anyways. Having a good overhang is probably the most important thing you can do anyways. And I have a decent overhang on the front here. The back is a little bit less, but there is a fence and trees and all that, so that'll keep the rain down a little bit too. So try not to have like a 2-inch board at the end, so kind of even things out the best I can. Don't think I mentioned it, but I used the level just to make sure my standalone boards were straight up and down-ish. Like I wasn't very particular about which way they are. And then after that, it was just you butt them up next to it, and if it looks straight, it's straight. There's no need to check every single one. And the back wall. Again, planning maybe could have gone a little bit better because there was not a lot of room. There was just enough room though. I was able to get everything done without having to move the shed. But definitely got a few bruises on the ribs. Make this back wall chewed up the more bits I had, just because you can't be square very easily with the actual hole of the bit. So I went through 3 or 4, I think, total, which was a box and a half of screws, plus all the other, like the previous little screws I had from another project. It's not too terrible, but hitting cost you forget about. Ouch. Poor driver. And probably stripped out the screw. Need 2 more. So it's already pretty cold when I get to that point, but front's the same idea. You just have the angle at the top. The back is a little bit more difficult because I built from instead of my reference point being the angle, my reference point is the bottom. And then I was able to go, I think, 5 boards on each side before I had to start cutting them. This is that L trim that you would have seen in earlier videos, or maybe you haven't, but you can go back and check it out if you want. Just finishing up the roof. Got a couple holes to patch, ridge cap to put on, roof vent, and we're snowing. Try to cover up the one wall because that's where the wind was coming from. Didn't want snow packed in between the gaps of the boards and against the Tyvek, and then have it freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw. So kind of having to call it quits, but still got a few odds and ends here and there to wrap up. So at this point in the build, I think my biggest hole was my doorknob in my door because my window was sealed in and all that. I don't know, but you can see all the way. Oh, the camera doesn't really pick it up. But you can see all the way to the other side. You can see the shed through that crack there. So I'm hoping we have enough airflow if we need it. See if we can. There we go. You can just see the, oh, we had it for a second. I think that's the best we're gonna get. Nope. There we go. You can see sunlight on the other side. See it there? You can see it there too. Sunlight on the other side. There is a light patch in the middle because there's a window the window is shining against the wall, so you get a little bit of a white patch halfway through. You can still make out that slit at the very, very end, where it's actual direct